By 1858, a single administrative office in London was directing the affairs of over 250 million people across India, a population several times the size of Britain itself, with a civil service of barely 1,000 officers. No modern army, no overwhelming force on the ground, no way to police that scale by strength alone. And yet it held for generations, longer than almost anyone at the time expected it could. However you judge empire itself, the actual mechanics of how it was built and sustained are worth understanding. Because the traits that made it possible weren't luck, and they weren't really about weapons. They were about a handful of specific disciplines practiced consistently at scale. The same disciplines Marcus Aurelius had written to himself about in a tent on the Danube 17 centuries earlier. Lesson 1. Systems outlast strength. Rome didn't hold its empire through constant warfare. It held it through law, roads, and administration that functioned whether or not the emperor was watching. Marcus Aurelius understood this instinctively. He spent as much of his reign on correspondence and governance as he did on the battlefield, because an empire runs on structure, not on any single man's force of will. Britain applied the same principle in India through the Indian civil service, a small, rigorously trained cadre of administrators who ran districts, courts, and revenue systems with a discipline closer to a religious order than a colonial garrison. Entry was by competitive examination, not birthright, which meant the system selected for competence and consistency over privilege. A district officer might govern a population the size of a small European country, alone, backed by nothing but the reliability of the system behind him. That is the same lesson Marcus Aurelius left behind. You don't control outcomes through force in the moment. You control them by building something disciplined enough to hold without you. Lesson 2. Adapt to what you cannot change. Marcus Aurelius never wasted energy wishing his circumstances were different. A plague, a war, a betrayal. He worked with what was actually there. The most durable parts of British administration in India followed the identical instinct. Rather than replacing existing systems wholesale, colonial administrators frequently governed through existing local rulers, customs, and legal structures wherever it was practical to do so, adapting policy to the reality on the ground instead of imposing a rigid template that didn't fit it. This wasn't virtue for its own sake, it was function. Systems that worked with local reality lasted. Systems that fought it constantly bled resources and provoked exactly the resistance they were trying to avoid. The lesson runs the same whether you're governing a province or running your own life. Fighting reality is expensive. Working with it is efficient. Lesson 3. Infrastructure is discipline made physical. Between the 1850s and the early 1900s, British administration oversaw the construction of one of the largest railway networks in the world across India, alongside telegraph lines, canal systems, and postal networks. Infrastructure that moved troops, goods, and information at a scale and speed no previous power on the subcontinent had managed. Whatever the underlying motives, the effect was the same one Marcus Aurelius pursued through Roman roads and aqueducts centuries earlier. Infrastructure is what turns short-term control into long-term endurance. Anyone can hold ground for a season. Systems are what let you hold it for a century. The personal version of this lesson is simple and easy to skip past. The habits and structures you build when things are calm are what actually carry you through the moments they're not. Neither Rome nor the British Empire held together through sheer dominance in the moment, through any one battle, any one leader, any one year. They held through systems built during the quiet periods, disciplines repeated long enough to become structural, and a willingness to work with reality rather than against it. Empires eventually still fall. That was true for Rome, and it was true here too. But the discipline underneath them is transferable long after the empire itself is gone. Build your own systems, adapt to what you can't change, put in the unglamorous infrastructure now so it's there to hold you later. That's not a lesson about empire, that's a lesson about anyone trying to build something that lasts. If this helped you see it differently, stay a while. There's more where this came from.